Hey guys, I'm Chris.
Hey everybody, I'm Robert.
And we're the Film Flamers.
And it's March. So that means it's zombie time.
Yes, every March we do March of the Zombies, and we've been doing that for many years now.
All the years.
Man, this is probably one of the most modern zombie films that we have ever done, outside of maybe Girl with All the Gifts, which I think was Patreon. Which,
yes.
Man, I'd love to deep dive. And then we also did that one with Martin Freeman, the Australian one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Where they were like on a boat.
The short that should have stayed short.
Yes. But I think we find that when we talk about some of these modern zombie movies, we like them because they are, treading new ground in a subgenre of horror films that seems very, very cliched at this point.
Yes.
But we are here to talk about a film that we saw and loved and couldn't wait to deep dive. And so now it's time to talk about MadS, which is a 2024 French zombie horror thriller film written and directed by David Moreau. The story follows Julia, Anaïs, and Romain, who witness and take part in an apparent zombie outbreak of French proportions. MadS is presented in real time and was filmed in one continuous shot.
Production took place in and around Mulhouse over 10 days, with cinematographer Philip Lozano also serving as the lone camera operator. The cast and crew filmed 5 takes, the final take being used for the film. The film's score was composed by Nathaniel Méchaly.
Méchaly?
I don't know how to say it.
Where? Okay, listeners. I'm gonna eat your fucking face, Julia!
But in French.
This is MadS.
Somewhere in France, presumably because everyone speaks French, Romain, played by Milton Ritchie, celebrates his birthday by snorting a line of some drug that he's buying from his dealer. When he mentions the odd taste and appearance, the dealer shrugs it off. After all, he doesn't make the stuff. Romain gets into his father's classic Mustang to drive a short distance home, but he drops a lit cigarette in the vehicle's interior and pulls over to find it. A bandaged woman appears and climbs in. She's frantic, and Romain calls the police, but remembers the shit he just snorted and opts to take her to the hospital instead. En route. The woman plays a recording of a doctor reporting that she carries an infectious disease and that her tongue and teeth have been removed. Naturally, the woman stabs herself about the neck, getting blood everywhere, and causing Romain's drugged-up self to freak the fuck out. He drives home, leaves the woman in the garage, and showers the blood away. He develops an uncontrollable tic and finds a strange woman missing from the garage. Isn't that a French word? Garage? Garage. Anna, played by Laurie Pavey, Romain's girlfriend, arrives to escort him to a local house party. She wants them to walk because they have things to discuss. But an annoyingly loud group of friends arrive to pick them up anyway. Despite his protests, Romain locks the house, arms the alarm system, and they all head off. He gives the drugs to Anna as they arrive, and the party is crowded and thumping, and Romain is becoming increasingly high and stimulated. He goes to a vacant bedroom and hides when he hears Anna and Julia, played by Lucille Guillaume, enter. Anna sits down to pee, inviting Julia to sit in the bathroom with her so they can snort some of Romain's drugs, because that's apparently a thing people do. When Anna finds a pregnancy test in Julia's purse, Julia explains that she's been fucking Romain and she may be preggers. Anna's pretty pissed about this and storms off. Romain attempts to kiss Julia, but is rebuffed. Julia goes back to the party as Romain's eyes begin to glow in the dark. Returning downstairs, Romain brutally attacks a partygoer and flees on a bike. He gets a call from his father saying that the alarm at home has been triggered. There's an intruder. Romain calls the alarm company to have them shut off the alarm, but only he can do it. He travels home on the bike, disarms the alarm, and finds the strange woman in the bathtub cutting a device out of her chest. She pursues Romain to the house, but lights begin shining in, and the military presence in gas masks on hazmat suits tries to gain entry rec. Once inside, they shoot the woman, and Romain flees into the neighboring woods, laughing and ticking all the way. The military catch up to him, throwing him into a van and shoot him. many times. They speed off, almost hitting Anna as she walks into a rideshare van. In the van, Anna starts her own spazzy tics and takes a call from Julia, who explains that the party is in utter chaos. Anna screams that she just needs some space and alone time, but notices that the van is being tailed. The driver pulls over and confronts the vehicle who's tailing them, driven by the military, who shoot him. Anna attempts to flee, but a tire has been blown out. She gets out, convulses into the street, and is shot a few times, but that doesn't seem to affect her. She runs away to a nearby bar. Everyone's horrified at her appearance. She goes to the bathroom to clean up, but the military arrives and shoots everyone inside. She escapes through the bathroom window, though, and calls Julia to arrange a rendezvous at the park bridge. As she heads there, she starts to screech and hiss like an animal. Her tics are growing more and more intense. She attacks a man and steals his bike, which she rides away laughing with glee. She meets up with Julia and her trusty scooter. Julia, shocked by Anna's appearance and demeanor, puts her on the scooter behind her and heads to the hospital. Anna repeatedly smears blood all over Julia's face, forcing her to push Anna off the scooter. A siren begins to wail as Julia drives off. Julia gets a call from her disabled mother, telling her that something bad's happening in town and she can't get out of the building. Julia races that way, with Anna running after her, threatening to eat her face. Julia makes it to the building and narrowly escapes Anna to the elevator, but the power goes out, trapping Julia inside, and Julia's sister attempts to get her out, but is shot by the military. When the power returns, Julia makes her way to her mother, but finds Anna devouring her face. She finally got that snack. Julia runs away, but is stopped by a military member. She tells her to hush, so she can look Julia over, especially her eyes, while explaining that there's infection and you have to be careful not to get bitten and such, and so on and so forth. She cannot finish her exposition, however, because Anna emerges and bites the soldier on the leg. She repeatedly shoots Anna about the ear, nose, and throat, and then kills herself with a pistol. With the soldier's rifle in hand, Julia makes her way to the hallway window. She slouches to the floor, laughing maniacally, while the town outside is ravaged with explosions. The embers of explosions fall outside the window like snow, while Julia breaks down and sobs. This is the end
of everything. Shudder purchased the film's distribution rights in North America, the United Kingdom, Ireland, Australia, and New Zealand in February of 2024. MadS had its world premiere at Fantastic Fest here in Texas on September 21st, 2024, and also screened at the 57th Sitges Film Festival in October. It was digitally released by Shudder on October 18th, 2024.
MadS is a 94% on Rotten Tomatoes, with an audience score sitting at 67%. The site's consensus reads, quote, immersing audiences in pure pandemonium with technical ingenuity and an unblinking point of view, MadS is a thrill ride that never lets up. Metacritic assigned the film a score of 78, indicating generally favorable reviews, with many critics praising its one-shot technique.
Brian Tallarico of RogerEbert.com described the film as George A. Romero's Run Lola Run.
I love that.
Praising its pacing, originality, viciously bleak tone, and moments of sharp, wicked humor. In her review for The Guardian, Catherine Bray called MadS a welcome return to form for David Moreau, complimenting Philip Lozano's camera work and providing a sense of momentum in the film's conclusion for its euphoric nihilism. Mashable's Christy Puchko praised Moreau's achingly natural dialogue and the performances of Laurie Pavey and Lucille Guillaume, summarizing MadS as a viciously enthralling thriller.
What else has this guy done? Moreau. I didn't do any research on the director.
David Moreau is a pretty famous, French extremities director. Although he's really only made one movie that I would categorize as French extremity, because I don't think this one really fits that bill. But he made a movie called Eads, which translates to Them, and it's about a people who are living in this farmhouse and someone invades their home and tortures them. Just like most French extremity movies.
My goodness.
He also directed an American film starring Jessica Alba called The Eye.
I've seen that.
I've seen that as well. Right?
It wasn't good.
No, I didn't care for that movie. And the only other movie I've seen that he's directed is this one. So those three that I've seen.
Interesting. Okay. I have some favorite Letterboxd reviews.
Oh, fuck yeah. Okay. What are they?
So first one, the French really give zero fucks when it comes to horror. A unique and fresh zombie concept. Climax, but instead of LSD in the punch bowl, it's red cocaine that turns you into a flesh-eating lunatic. Fun. Again, don't do drugs, kids.
Yeah, drugs are bad, okay?
Number 2, okay, fine, I'll stick to weed. And number 3, fuck no. If I see a zombie riding a bike, I'm killing myself on the spot.
Those are good. Okay. In commentary, though, the first one is correct. Like, the French do not give any fucks when it comes to horror. They make some of the best horror films. I have said that many times on this podcast. And when they do zombie horror, it's really good too, because there was another French zombie film that I saw called like A Night at the End of the World or something like that, which is also really good. But that's like a one character, one room kind of movie, and that is really my bag. So I don't know. This movie has some accolades at the Sitges Film Festival. It was nominated for Best Motion Picture, but it lost to The Devil's Bath, which I think is also a really highly acclaimed recent horror film that I haven't seen. Have you seen this?
I feel like I did.
I feel like you did watch it when you were doing a year-end sprint.
Yeah, and it had something to do with hair
or something.
I don't think it was that good.
No, because it was on my list to watch, and then you watched it, and I was like, pass.
Yeah, a lot of people really liked it. I did not.
Yeah. So
yeah.
This movie, however, we both watched way back in 2024 and loved, and it had a very, very high spot on our top 10 that year.
Yes, it did. It was, I think, my number 3.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, like number 2.
It's hard to think of it as that long ago.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't seem like it was that long before we watched this movie.
And it wasn't. It's just that we've already finished this last year's final review, right? Just like a month or 2 ago. So now it's like technically like 2 years ago, even though it hasn't been 2 years.
Right.
Whatever. So yeah, 2024, but a very recent film. We have a cast here, obviously, of unknowns, right? This is Milton Ritchie as Romain, Laurie Pavey as Anna or Anaïs, Lucille, I don't know how to say that, as Julia. Those are our 3 perspectives, right? It kind of the movie switches between their perspectives, starting with Romain and moving forward from there. And yeah, I have to say all 3 of these principal actors and everyone else involved did an amazing job.
I have to agree. I think that the acting in this movie is really, really good and very natural. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, part of that's the dialogue, and then part of that is a lot of, I think, rehearsal that they must have done.
Given the way they wanted to make this movie, I assume that they did lots and lots of rehearsing. Right. Yeah. So, if you practice makes perfect, right? So if you're doing this thing over and over again in rehearsal, and then you're having all these takes, right? Well, the 5 that they did.
And you've got to lock in. You've got to commit to these roles because you are that role for an hour and a half.
Yep.
It's a stage play, but you're moving around in the real world. Like, there's nothing like this.
You're right. And I think, like, as we start to get into the movie and talk about like what happens in it and then the way that it's presented to us, I think that we'll talk about the acting a little bit more, but I really like the way that these perspectives are sort of laid out and what each of these actors do to sort of push the story along, because it tells a full story in this amount of time. And this real time aspect of it is really, really good and key to the movie itself.
Yeah. So Moreau began conceiving of MadS after having a nightmare in which he was drugged and experienced a bad trip. And sometime later, when he was jogging in a forest near his home, he started to think about this idea about a disease that could potentially be caused by a drug. And then he was startled by an actor in zombie makeup who was filming a nearby episode of The Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon, which he took as the god of zombies, sending him a strange sign to produce the film.
That seems like something that should be reserved for fun facts. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I mean, it's such an interesting thing. He was inspired to film MadS in one continuous take by the 2015 film Victoria, which I have not seen.
Same.
Which was also shot in one take. And he felt like the filmmaking technique added realism that made it seem almost like a documentary. Now, I feel like that's kind of a misspeak because, like, we've seen plenty of oneers, right, in film. But, like, I feel like it goes beyond, for a feature length like this, it goes beyond an already documentary style or cinema verite presentation. And this doesn't use shaky cam, really. It's somewhere in between, like dolly and Steadicam, but you still get that follow along. And I think that, like, emphatically, this is a perfect case study for how a oneer, especially in long form, can enhance realism because things are happening in real time. Nothing's quite like it. Editing really pushes you through time. In every other movie compared to this is a montage, right? This is one long continuous scene. It's one bad night and there are no breaks. And that makes it so much more real.
I agree, because the first time I watched this movie, I think I was kind of like flabbergasted at the wonder of it all, right? And I was just like, you know, it's really interesting that people can make a movie in this kind of a style. When I was watching it last night, it really dawned on me that we are watching things unfold in real time, right? And I was thinking about editing as a way to show passage of time. And we're so used to having all those editing tools when we're watching this kind of narrative, right? But when you don't have those moments and you don't have those tools, you are in it. Like, you're in the movie. You are a part of it. You're watching everything happen in real time, like you said, and it just makes it feel like you were there.
Yep.
And that's
much more immersive.
Yes. And that's only something that realism can accomplish, right?
Yeah.
And so I think you're absolutely right. It's the real time aspect of it that really brings you into the movie and makes you feel like you're a part of it.
He wrote basic outlines for the characters, but allowed the actors to develop them further once they were cast. Lead cast members Lucille Guillaume, Laurie Pavey, and Milton Ritchie were all relatively inexperienced, with MadS serving as Pavey's feature film debut.
Really?
Literally her first film. And she's the one she's doing like all of this amazing, like in the moment, like work, like just constantly, like for minutes and like an hour at a time, she has to be...
I feel like she's doing
crazy.
all the fucking heavy zombie lifting for sure.
They all have to do hard shit. All of them. I think the technically hardest was probably the guy at the beginning, based on what I know about how the film was made, with driving the car and everything. The other things are, everything in this movie is technically complicated on how they did it and pulled it off with making it look seamless. But, it's... I think part of it was, I think later on in my notes, it says like he explicitly did this so that they wouldn't overthink it from a technical standpoint. They would just commit to a character and be excited about acting, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And not think about what's possible and what's not. And they wouldn't be overwhelmed by the technical aspect of a production. Right.
And I guess having people who are kind of inexperienced when it comes to acting in film would be good, because if you have an experienced actor, they're used to having multiple takes. They're used to doing things out of order and not filming in this kind of a style. So if you have someone who's not already trained to do something like that, it would make it a little easier for them. But if you want to get them excited about their characters and whatnot, he really took the right route, I guess. I don't know. Like, thinking about how they made this movie like scares me inside. I was just like, there's no way I would even want to attempt to do something like that.
It's just like a well orchestrated like ballet or something. You just think about some of these scenes and how they must have done it. It's just really fun to think about, right? Because it's all done in camera. So like you see like the girl running towards her in the background. This later in the movie, she's on a moped and her friend's running after her to eat her face, right? And it's just like a zombie chase scene, but then you see her disappear and then she's closer. And you disappear and closer, and then she runs across the frame onto a side street, and that was even closer, right? And it's like, how did they do that? Okay, if it was all on camera. Well, they don't have like an Olympic sprinter, so they had 3 or 4 actresses dressed the same way, hiding behind cars and doing that. Well orchestrated so that one wouldn't be seen at the same time as the other.
Oh, that's fucking genius.
What I mean? Yes. So like, and this is all in a moving thing. Like you see the camera go by and the person with the moped, and everything. And then it's like someone on some radio is saying, go, 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 and it's all got to be working perfectly or the whole thing is fucked.
I didn't even think about that, because I'm not quite sure that I noticed the girl running so close to the moped on the first watch of this movie.
Yeah.
But last night I certainly did. And I was just like, man, that bitch runs fast. If this is a one take, that makes perfect sense. Because I did not even stop to think about how they achieved the magic. Like, that is not my point when I'm watching a movie. You know?
And you probably don't want to. This is more fun if you don't, but it's also fun later if you do. Like,
yes.
You know what I mean? You don't want to do it in the moment, though.
No, I like it when you tell me things like that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to think about how they performed it. I like the magic of cinema.
Yeah. Speaking of the magic of cinema, Philip Lozano served as the film's director of photography and camera operator. So after renting and testing a variety of cameras, he decided to use the Red Raptor. The Red cameras are digital and are like all over cinema these days. And he worked with a Steadicam operator, Jan Rubens, to build a custom rig that would be light enough for him to manage for the full shoot. So the completed rig weighed about 12 kilograms or 26 pounds. And there were no trick cuts that most oneers use. Like if you think about Alfred Hitchcock's Rope, like they would pan the camera behind like a door opening or someone's back of a suit or something, because they would literally have to change film reels. Yeah, because the reel only had so much film. Otherwise, I think Hitchcock totally would have done it in one. You know, or Children of Men, that where like visual effects kind of hide a cut. Or other things. One exception near this length actually might be that one episode long one of Haunting of Hill House by the Flanagan.
Oh, that's right. The one in the funeral home.
Yeah, where they go around and they're like going into different sets with it and like going through different time periods. And it's all the troupe of actors and are all just doing this oneer and special effects are happening. It's great.
God, that's such a good episode.
Yeah. But the equipment allowed for just a small amount of vertical movement while restricting horizontal movement. So Moreau described the camera work as not handheld, not static, as he didn't want the film to make the film viewers, throw up after the first 25 minutes.
Thank you.
Right. So Lozano underwent 4 weeks of cardio and strength training just to ensure that he could hold the rig for the full shoot.
Jesus Christ. Can you imagine?
Yeah. So then principal photography took place over 10 days. In the Mulhouse area, which required the production to basically shut down the city. So the Mulhouse area of France, if you're interested, is kind of near Strasbourg, which is near the German border, maybe almost about an hour south of that area. And so it's like, oh my God, yeah, kind of, it looks very European. It's just very traditionally like European township type of situation.
It does, and I really want to go. I mean, like I've been to Paris and like right outside of Paris and like the Champagne areas, but I didn't go anywhere else in France. And then watching this movie last night, I was like, where the fuck in France is this?
That's why I was like, this could have like, it reminded me so much of going to high school in Germany. And I was like, it's got to be near the border or something, right? And sure enough, yeah.
I mean, because there's like, where else in the world can you have this kind of like seemingly modern city, right? That feels so kind of old. And I mean, I don't know. It just gave me this weird, like, this is what Europe must feel like kind of vibe.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
And it did. And it really sold that because it reminded me of going to parties, as a teenager in Germany.
This could have very well happened to you.
Yes, very much so. Except I didn't snort any red Coke.
Well, thankfully you had that kind of sense.
Mine was greenish. No, it's okay. Yeah. So, but of course, only half of those were actually shooting, right? So the first 4 days were spent rehearsing, right? And the fifth filming was a technical rehearsal, and then the last 5 days shooting a series of 5 takes. So they didn't plan on 10 days; they actually planned on like 6 or 7.
Well, I mean, whatever they did made a very, very good movie. So
6, 7.
6, 7.
The story begins in the evening and continues through the night, which required the crew to film only 1 take per day because of that.
That's right. The natural light would change.
Yep. So, and Moreau described the first 2 days of photography as disasters as the crew experienced technical issues that prevented the film from shooting the entire film. The day after each take, Moreau reviewed the production dailies with the film's crew in a movie theater, kind of like Pixar style, right, where they take everyone and look at everything and collected feedback to improvise or improve subsequent takes. Let's see how things would have to change.
Okay.
And then basically involving the entire crew and cast. And that like, I need to move here because you're talking like this entire crew and cast has to move like a well orchestrated machine in such a teamwork capacity. Like, I don't know.
I was going to say, it's exactly like if you're on a sports team,
yeah.
Right? Because you will go back and you will watch the plays that you've developed on film together as a group and like change it. So this is very much like planning out the play as you're going along, right? They are a team complete. You have to have everybody in the right place to get something like this like done. I've already said the making of this movie seems like something impossible. And I would like to know, like, I'm glad you told me more about how it was made. And I don't think that it takes away from the magic of this movie at all. Like, I think like knowing how they did it actually like increases its value.
Specialness
to me. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But, you know, I think that this movie is very special for other reasons, right? I think that as far as a zombie movie goes, I think that it introduces a lot of things and like the Frenchness of it all. I think like the look and feel is good.
Yeah, it definitely has a vibe. So like I don't think it's French extremity though. Like not really, not based on you know, not based on like any choice or technical constraint, but I feel like maybe it is technical constraint because of its water quality. It couldn't do that much crazy gore.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
I think you're right. I'm going to open up a
if
drink for this because I think he would if he's already made movies like that.
Yeah. And they don't give a shit.
They don't, you know, and like if he wanted to make that kind of a movie, he could, but he wanted to do something completely different. I think that he was going for a new kind of French extremity.
And it kind of is like if we had gotten closer to the face eating and like there's plenty of blood in the movie, you know. Yeah. And there's a lot of violence as alluded to with the gunfire and all that stuff. But it's like we don't need that, right? Because we know what's happening.
Exactly. I mean, we get to see enough blood.
There's also intestine that we see at some point, yeah.
I mean, and people get their faces shot off, and we get to see pieces of that. He has pieces of French extremity in here, and because that's what he sort of cut his teeth on as far as filmmaking goes. But he is sort of pushing another extremeness that French people will often do when it comes to horror. And I think that he did this from a technical standpoint. So if we're looking at like a new wave of French extremity films, I feel like they would more be going in this particular route, right? Mm-hmm. But also like French extremity at this point is dated. I mean, like some of that sort of predates what we would call torture porn in America, right? It's time for something new.
But I feel like it's almost like a lazy thing. You know, like it's just extremity is extremity, but the story could be literally anything. Yeah. You know, so it's like it's less of a genre or even a subgenre and more of just like an identifier, you know, of a certain aspect of a film.
Well, and at this point too, I think people have become desensitized to what we would call French extreme.
Well, you know? like look, Saving Private Ryan. It's got some of the most Passion of the Christ, some of the most gore of any movie, you know, but they're not considered horror, but they certainly have extremity.
This is true.
But the cinematography by Philip Lozano and a number of other things and aspects about this film, to me, remind me of other things that came before it, either intentionally or not. I don't know that the look of this thing is homage. I think because it was done in kind of a cinema verite style and some of the inevitable lighting that they do, does pay some tribute, either intentionally or not, to 28 Days Later.
I agree with that.
Right. But I feel like the music by Nathaniel Méchaly, particularly later in the film with those guitar tracks, are very reminiscent of 28 Days Later and its actual theme. So I want to say it's the homage is very clear there.
I am so glad you said this because while I was watching this movie last night and the music was playing and I was like, what is this? I was like, they stole this from another movie. What movie is this from?
Literally.
Thank you fucking God for saying this because I could not put my finger on it and it does. It sounds exactly like 28
You were looking
Days
everywhere
Later.
else but right on the nose.
I know. It's just like, they took this from something. And no, you're right. It sounds just like that score now that you've said the name of that movie.
Later on, and I've been hunting for this score. When it first came out, I was piecing it together.
Yeah.
Mostly I was trying to find like the more like techno-y pop punk stuff that they've got going on. And there's a tiny bit of that, and I'm almost through it because it's like a 30 fucking track soundtrack. But a lot of... No, I've already finished it because I've added 3 tracks to my film score favorites. Anyway... But the best tracks in there are those like guitar riffs that build up kind of like 28 years or 28 Days Later. Mm-hmm. So anyway, also speaking of homage, Possession much?
Please, I know. Well, this is something that I noticed the first time that I watched it. I think we both talked about it at that point.
Well, she enters also that like tunnel, like under the bridge or whatever, and I'm like, oh my God, there's a lady down here, like dressed in that same kind of outfit, like, and then I'm like, is that going to happen? No, it didn't. But later on, this lady's basically doing the possession thing on his bike the whole time. Like Pavi is her first time in a movie. I'm just like, how are you being asked to this level of commitment to a character for this long this intense, it's insane. But yes, Possession. And I'm so glad we watched that like in the last year.
I know, because I mean, it gives you a really good like point of reference, because this is very Isabella Adjani.
Oh, that was last February, not this not this last, the February before last. Then.
That's right.
So it's a little over a year then.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it was still recent, in like the term of things.
Super memorable, and then also close enough for us to see the first Aumann, for us to make that homage, which was very direct.
That's right.
Because it's more of like you're expelling something, right? This isn't so much about expelling something versus just like dehumanizing yourself on camera for a long ass amount of time with no breaks, and it almost puts it to shame in a way.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that her performance in this movie is really, really good, and I think it's okay to make those like ties to Possession. Because, I mean, she's acting very Adjani. But I think she takes it to a different, more like kind of zombie level.
And it may not have even been intentional, right? Because if you think about it, she has to be on camera for this amount of time, and she has to be acting like she's losing her humanity because she's becoming a fucking zombie. And how do you space that out over 10, 20, 30 minutes? It's almost just a requirement of the scene, like, oh, we're going to do this from Possession. No, I think this is less... I think it's more coincidental and less intentional, and it just reminds me of that level of performance and that length of a performance.
Yeah, because I think if they're giving them some sort of direction character-wise to say like you develop a tic, right, and the tic becomes uncontrollable, which is I think is something that we see within like Romain's character, right? But we don't get to see him progress much further than the tic. Like for Anna, we get to see like the full.
We start seeing he hears the laugh, and then he starts laughing. Mm-hmm. He attacks someone, and it's when he kind of loses his inhibitions is when he gets cut off in the story. And then we get Pavi. We get her character, Anna, taking over.
And it's just so good. I love watching her ride that fucking bike. Right. I like watching her steal it and then ride it. Right? I think it's just one of the most enjoyable moments in this movie, like watching that kind of like character transformation from who she was into the zombie that she ends up being.
But it's so sporadic, though. It's not a smooth transition because she's so like ecstatic and joyful and childlike about the sadistic way she took that thing. And then she cries about it. And like almost, I think she actually apologizes like after she laughed about it.
Yep.
So it's like she's a different person, and then she gets sucked back to herself after she removes herself from the light, and it's like we get fits and spurts of this that slowly just take over. And she did that so well. They all really did.
They did. And I think it's important to remember that it's not just like a zombie transformation, right? I think a lot of this movie is talking about like drug usage and excess. And like she took a lot of drugs in this movie, I think far more than any other character, and
I don't know. He took a pill and then he did a couple lines. I just saw her take a line.
But I mean, like he took a line at the drug dealer's house and then he had it in his pocket. He gave it to her. She tried some when he gave it to her, and then she did some with Julia in the bathroom. Yeah. So, I mean, and there was some time in between where we were only with Romain, right? So we have no idea how much of this drug that she took.
I'm in a bad way too.
Yeah, and so she's experiencing things in kind of a drug usage kind of way, in my opinion. She's going from like gleeful moments to sad moments, and like she's really high, and like
sure.
If she's becoming a zombie, is the drugs affecting her in some kind of a way? Is it affecting her humanity? I think that you could really like take some long like stabs at trying to say like, are they really becoming zombies, or are they just on drugs? Is it just a bad trip kind of thing?
I mean, obviously by the end, you know the answer to that. But
yes.
I would say that these zombies, just while we're on the subject, I feel like these zombies are scarier in a way than normal ones because they don't care about ending your life. Like all these zombies, even the runners, right? They will go and they will tear you apart and it's over. These ones are way more effective in a way because they don't even care about hurting you. Like what they seem to be most interested in is getting their blood in your eyes and your mouth.
Yeah.
And then moving the fuck on.
That's right.
Later on, it looks like there's more gore later on as they fully transform, and maybe they turn into that like less efficient where they're just killing people. But like this really does seem like they're trying to spread, and it's super efficient in that way because there's fully functioning zombie runners now that are not injured that just were turned.
And I think also, I mean, it's a really efficient way to spread the infection. But I think that these zombies, Pavi especially in her role, is having a good time with it all. You know what I mean? Like she's excited to be rubbing blood all over her friend's face while she's riding a scooter. You know what I mean? She's laughing and she's doing it.
Yeah, but then later she's not, you know, you know what I mean? Like it's going in and out. So I love that part of the performance where she's like feeling remorse and like, what did I just do? And who am I? I'm not in a good way. And then all of a sudden she's gleeful in it. And then she comes back. It's like she's going into an animalistic state and then she's being pulled back.
It's just, I mean, it's really interesting. Like her character, especially, I think to watch like all the stages of what she's doing and how she's doing it. And she really just like shows those gleeful moments. Right. And I mean, it's really kind of scary too, to watch it. Like, I think those are the scariest parts of this movie.
And a lot of horror is based on the fear of losing control.
Yeah.
Right. And stuff. And so also like, I feel like this starts as like a teen party movie, but ends in something more akin to a war movie. You know, it's almost like we're watching like some sort of zombie version of Come and See, you know. I feel like it starts as that party movie and that there's a slow escalation that's done that's absolutely excellent here in all ways, from characters and to setting, right? We're not only watching the characters transform, but we're watching the setting. The alarms start going off. We start seeing the fires. We start seeing the gunfire, the flashes behind in the scenery. By the end, we see basically explosions, and we see helicopters, and then we see fire sparks, you know? And so we just see this, it's kind of slow, you know, but it's a steady but slow descent into hell.
No, and you're right, because I think some of the things that we talked about on our first watch of this movie was we're watching the beginnings of the zombie apocalypse.
Yep.
Right? And I think that's important because like you get to see that sometimes in film, but not to the extent that you do in this one. We get to see an entire city like start to fall, right?
Yep.
And I think the ending of this movie is really good and actually really kind of fucking pretty, you know? Like when you're watching Julia sort of like sink to the floor and see all the sparks and embers from explosions like falling right outside, right? It's almost fucking beautiful in its destruction, you know? And I really like that moment. And I like the way that this movie ends. Like it doesn't have to explain any more than it does. Like things are going to hell and that's the end.
Yeah. I love that we're basically in every setting in the city. We're in the house, we're in the kind of forest, we're in the streets, we're in a tunnel, we're in an elevator, we're in a high rise. You know what I mean? Like we're everywhere in the city, all in real time. It's amazing.
Exactly. You're everywhere in this city. We're seeing all of these moments and all of these different settings at a fucking jog, like all the way through it. And I think that's important too, because you get to see like the way that the city is and then the way that the city dies. Like, I think it's just neat.
And speaking of that pacing again, I feel like it all lends to the pacing if you're locked in. And I feel like on my first watch, I must not have been as locked in. And, you know, like some of the chief complaints about this movie and my first go through, but seeing also the other complaints for people that don't rate it as highly, is that it feels like a long runtime. Like it feels like it's a little slow moving, like it's a slow burn. And there are moments that, because it's a oneer, run a few beats longer than a normal scene would in a normal film due to the lack of editing and waiting for like the next action beat to happen. You know what I mean? And so like we're stuck in these moments with these characters, like in the back of the truck or on the bike ride home, or just like, you know, walking through the house or running after a friend, you know, or looking out at the horizon, you know, or just being stuck in an elevator. And it's like we're stuck with these characters just a few beats longer than we would be. And it reminded me of what that director of Green Knight, David Lowery, said about that, because there's at least one long shot in there where he's riding away from Camelot onto his adventure, and it's showing his perspective that whole way. And he famously said in that movie, he loves those moments because the audience kind of mentally checks out and then checks in with themselves. And then as the action starts up again, brings something back with them to the film, finding some kind of deeper and more personal meaning in those moments and scenes like these. And there are scenes throughout this that allow you the chance to contemplate what is happening and bringing your own perspective and thoughts to those moments.
Well, I mean, like, not to sound like philosophical or anything, but like such is life. You know, I think if you're going to make a movie that has this level of realism and this one kind of take where you're just following the life of these people for one evening into destruction, like that's just the way that life is. You'll have a time to stop and think about it.
Those are also the best moments to look at the acting, right?
Yeah.
Because it's all about timing. So they could have timed it for exactly 16 seconds later. I doubt it.
Yeah.
They're going to do it when they're ready and they can't cut. So the actors got to stay until they've got something ready. Like the elevators are going to open. If they couldn't get that elevator open, or this person's makeup wasn't right, or something fucked up on the other side of that door, they've got to wait an extra 5 seconds. Yep. And the audience has to stay there like a stage play with them, and they've got to stall. And that's amazing. I love that in film.
I mean, and same. I didn't really have that kind of complaint the first time I watched it. I thought the runtime felt kind of short, actually. Oh. And like I was okay with the way that the action was presented.
I felt like I was I was on the verge of being bored in a few scenes before the action changed. I still rated it super highly.
Yeah.
But because I was so technically impressed with it, and then, I saw some of the reviews that were kind of like that. Like, this is an episode of, something that went on, that was doubled and it shouldn't have, it felt like it was an episode, not a short, but an episode of something that was just elongated.
Yeah.
And I get it. But my second time, and I think what was part of that was jarring for me, was the changing in characters. I thought our hero or antagonist was this person, this perspective, like Cillian Murphy from 28 Days Later, right? Mm-hmm. And we're going to follow this person. Well, no, they get loaded into the back of a truck and killed.
Yep.
And I thought, okay, we're going to see him later. No, he's gone. Mm-hmm. And we're following this other person. That was jarring to me, right? And then there are a couple other things like, I kept thinking we have a protagonist in this, and we don't really.
No.
We have an audience. We are the audience and we're watching the audience, but we are participants as well as audience, just like the people in this movie are, which is really interesting. And I feel like knowing all of that going in for a second watch, I was comfortable with losing that perspective and moving on to the next character because I anticipated it and I remembered what was good about those things. And because of that, this movie moved so much quicker for me.
Yep.
The second watch.
I will agree with that completely because I was watching this, last night for just the second time. And like I told you earlier off mic, I feel like the first time you watch this movie, everything is really, really frantic and you're running and you have no idea what's going to happen. And there are no like comfortable edits for you to stop, right? You do have moments where you can stop and contemplate, but not long enough before something else starts to happen. The movie is constantly doing something. And so after you've seen it once and you go back and watch it for the second time, I think you just become more comfortable with like the way that it's filmed and you can stop and look at things because you can already anticipate what's going to happen.
Themes, right? Has the standard inevitability. I don't think this is bringing much new to the genre of zombie.
No.
So much as it is bringing to film. Yeah. And in kind of a gimmicky way, but it's just done so well that you can't help it, give it praise.
I wouldn't even call it a gimmick. I would not.
At this point, it's not because it was just so technically well done. But there is that standard inevitability feeling, slow motion train wreck, desperation, all of that. This one seems to have a theme about drugs, but it feels like everyone forgets about the escaped lab patient.
Yes.
Speaking of which, do we have any theories? Like, is it drugs? Patient zero? The drugs? Did patient zero happen because of the drugs? Did the drugs make it way worse? I mean, the cocaine was colored red and they hung a lantern on that pretty intentionally.
Yeah.
But looking at digging deeper and doing some research, I found that it was supposed to be a red herring. The drugs have nothing to do with it.
And I would assume so. because that doesn't make a whole lot of sense because the entire town is being affected by this and not everyone took the drugs.
I don't know that zombies on cocaine helps anything.
No. Like I said, I think it made some of those gleeful moments that we experience with the characters cocaine that we see, like I think they were acting that way because they were on drugs. They were a zombie on drugs. I think other people that were becoming zombies in this town were probably acting more like fucking zombies.
Do you remember the first time that you watched this thinking it was the drugs and being fooled by that at first? But we see almost immediately the patient zero in the first 5 minutes of the movie. The red herring only lasts for like 30 seconds.
The only reason
that people still take away all of those letterbox, even the synopsis on Wikipedia that I stripped out when we were making our notes said it's the drugs, and it's not.
It's not. There's no evidence to that really, because we don't get to see every single person in the town. And you're right. There's a lab patient right there who is like spreading her blood all over.
Yeah.
And like we don't get to see some of the moments where some of these people might have been
She
infected.
couldn't spread it. And so she was like, I need help, but get away from me. Don't take me to the hospital. But at the same time, I need to spread this. Like, you know what I mean? That desperation.
Yeah.
She leaned over near his face and started stabbing her neck towards his mouth. That's how desperate these people are to spread their blood. It's crazy.
The only reason that I even like thought, well, I never really thought it was the drugs, but like literally before I watched this the very first time, that's all that I read. Like it's something new with zombies. It's being spread through drugs. And I was like, no, that's not the case. And that would be like reinventing the zombie wheel so much, that they wouldn't even have to have this escaped patient.
Well, didn't they say 28 years later was from science, right? I mean, it's not even zombies really in 28 days later.
They're infected. And here they call them infected too. They don't really call them zombies. They don't ever use that word.
Yeah, except that, these ones are actually pretty invulnerable. They're shot in the head many times and they still survive. They are shot through the chest through and through many times and they still survive. Like nothing happened. It's like paintball for them.
Which is very zombie-like, I think that...
Except they can still fucking problem solve and like talk.
And ride a bike. Like that fucking letterbox review is right. If you see a zombie riding a bike, I'm out.
They're more like fucking gremlins. You think about it.
Like, don't feed them after midnight. No drugs after midnight.
He had half a mind to have like a zombie run around flashing people.
And I think most important is it doesn't matter, like, sure, it could be the drugs. Sure, it could be the escaped lab patient. You know what I mean?
It does escape having a moral stance about drugs. I want to be very clear about that. It doesn't really have that moral stance that anything in this movie caused, anything other than like humanity's hubris of like, working on this lab rat woman,
I think if they were really going to go the route about the drugs, they would have made it a little bit more preachy, and they didn't. You're right. They didn't. Yeah. So it's people are using drugs and the zombie apocalypse is happening at the same time, just like it would happen in the real world.
And these people are infected and also on cocaine, but they're still, walking around making phone calls, texting and hailing cabs. You know what I mean? They're not super inebriated.
No, they are not.
So that's another clue.
Well, I mean, it's been a long time since I've used any kind of drug similar to what they would have been using in this movie, and so like,
okay,
I don't remember exactly how I acted, and this was way before Uber, so I don't know. I do think that this movie has something to say about excess, right? And I think that's the stance that it's taking with drugs a little bit. I think all of these kids are kind of like living this moderately wealthy kind of life. They have access to drugs. They have access to parties. And it like their downfall happens to like coincide along with that drug usage. I don't think there's a moral standpoint. I mean, we're not like watching The Great Gatsby unfold or anything like that.
Typical Tuesday night in Europe, for real. I mean, come on, Robert.
Well,
this is a French perspective.
I was living in the wrong continent in the 90s.
In the wrong state and the wrong city. Yes.
But I mean, if you look at something like The fucking Great Gatsby, you're watching people like use these chemicals to excess and bring about their downfall. In this particular movie, they are using some chemicals and a downfall happens. I think it's just kind of adjacent to the downfall. Does that make sense? Right.
It's the setting. They wanted to show.
It's just setting in character. It's
people. Yeah.
And that's all.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, they're just infected with something.
Tough.
I do want to know what the song is that person was singing karaoke when they went to the bar.
Cocaine.
Because she started to sing it later on walking down the street. And I was like, what song is this? I really don't know. That's my takeaway from this movie. I was like, what karaoke song was that? God. But I mean, if we want to carry some other things away from this movie, we have some questions to ask about MadS, like we do about every movie we deep dive into here on the Film Flamers. And we're going to start with, is MadS a horror movie?
Yes.
Yeah, very much. Were you scared while watching MadS?
Kinda. There's a really good jump scare later in this when she's like going towards the elevator.
Yeah, that's a really good jump scare too. I think that there are some moments in this movie that are scary from a visual standpoint.
The eyes, a lot of the time, like when the eyes start, you're like, is that? And then there was like fucked up mask.
The mask was fucking terrifying.
And I'm like, what is that mask that's randomly like took off the wall and put on his head?
Yeah, so many questions. Why
it's
is
also
that
on the
mask
cover
on
of
the
the
wall?
fucking movie, basically.
Yeah.
But it's not the mask, actually. It's the three characters placed on top of one another. If you look at the poster for long enough, you realize that. But it's done like the mask.
So that's exactly what I did last night, because I was paying attention to the mask way more on the second watch, and I was just like, I looked at the poster to the movie, and then I looked at the poster for a very long time on IMDb. So but there's a moment in this movie where the escaped lab patient has already like taken the thing out of her chest, and she's in the house, and she does this really weird kind of like acrobatic fucking Gollum-y stance in the hallway with the light shining behind her. And I was like, that is fucking beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Yeah. I love it.
Did you notice the pool was red as well when you went and sat by it? I'm like, that's where that lady was, probably, like where she had gotten in there.
Because I was like, why are you sitting right next to that red pool and just smoking and waiting for someone to come outside? I was like, bitch, pools ain't supposed to be red. Just like, go. All of these people probably, I don't think that anything could have been avoided in this movie. He could have not gone to the party or whatever.
She was sad. She wasn't thinking about red pools.
She was less sad. She wanted to sit down and be like, let's sigh.
I am a bit tired.
I have to talk to my boyfriend.
I bet she was tired. She had to run like a fucking mile in this movie.
She wanted to sit down by that red pool because she knew it was coming up later in the goddamn take.
God damn.
Out of 5 stars.
And then she has to tell the guy to turn the air conditioning down.
Yeah, I know. Mistake. I would have never done that. He was like, are you okay? Do you need anything? Do you want some candy? And she's like, do you have any water? Also, it's cold in here. I was just like, who says that when you get into a car? Maybe I'm just really fat and I live in Texas. But yeah.
My sister.
It's a little chilly. I'm like, don't listen to her. Turn it up.
Yeah.
Out of 5 stars, what did you rate MadS?
So the first time I watched it, I gave it 4.5, probably a 4. And then I gave it a half because it is special or unique. And I have that kind of like wild card rating in the scans system, which is linked in every show notes, by the way, if you want to use it. But this time around, I gave it 5 stars. Even if I had given it 4.5, it's that special wild card would push it over. There is no such thing as a perfect movie, but I can endlessly recommend this. I could endlessly watch it and study it. I can enjoy it on multiple different levels from a film geek and technical standpoint, but also from just like a straightforward movie standpoint. And if you think about it, we haven't touched on this much, but like not much really happens during this movie, but it's done so well and so intimately. And so like, it doesn't matter. Like they're not bringing anything really new gore wise or kill wise, or story wise or politically, or like some other like subplots going on. It's like a day in the life of, and there's still value in art and storytelling that's simple and doesn't necessarily bring new things to the table, as long as it gets you in it, involved, immersed, and locked into it, and that's what happened with this. And I think it's all the better for it. And I would consider it one of my top 3 favorite zombie films of all time, I think.
Wow. Okay.
Maybe. Yeah.
That's really high praise. I have to mirror almost everything that you said, because the first time I watched this movie, I also gave it 4.5 stars. And I think the reason that I didn't give it 5 stars then is because like I really, like by the time this movie was over the first time I watched it, I felt like tired. Like not because I was bored, just because like so much was happening and I felt like I was part of it. Like then this time I felt like I was part of it, but I was able to sort of like see the minutia that was happening around everything.
I still haven't watched this movie with you, actually.
No, we've never watched it together.
I remember watching it randomly because we were catching up for 2024, right? And I texted you. I knew that this was like something you would absolutely adore. And I was like, drop everything. I remember texting you this exactly. Drop everything and watch MadS.
And I did. And I loved it. And then I was watching it last night on my own, and we really try hard to watch movies together before a recording. It just didn't work out this week. And I was like, this movie is good. It was so much better than my first watch. And I feel like the more that I watch this movie, the more I'm going to love it. I don't feel like I can get tired of this. I think that it works as a zombie film. I think it works as a slice of life kind of film. Like
you can watch it in so many different ways. Yeah. You can watch it from a technical standpoint, or if you're over that, you can watch it for the performances, or you can watch it for all the little details that are happening. There's just like a lot of different ways to watch it.
And I feel like you're also right when you say that it's like endlessly recommendable. Like I will tell people to go and watch this movie. In fact, that I did after, like patron Alex watched it afterward and he also liked it, Nimble Wembley watched it and he liked it. So
patron Nimble Wembley?
That's right. So
it's weird how all of our patrons have the same first name.
And our patrons, they listen to us, hopefully, and hopefully other listeners too, because I don't know how much this movie is being seen, and I feel like it needs to be.
Yeah, and did we mention the budget and how much it made? It made like $58,000.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, it was like, who knows, because it was distributed and kept by Shudder. And to me, this would have been an amazing theatrical release. Even just like limited theater release.
Based on what I saw, it was released theatrically in certain places in like Eastern Europe. And that was it, and then like I didn't see a budget anywhere online. I looked, and I feel like when movies get to some of these streaming services, they keep a lot of that shit close to the vest. And
yeah.
And that's fine. They own it at this point. And the thing is that like not enough people subscribe to Shudder, and some people only subscribe when they want to watch Joe Bob.
Well, it's on AMC now too.
That's right.
Because everything on Shudder is on AMC.
And I think you can also rent some of these things on Amazon. Like all of these things you can get somewhere.
I tried looking for it at Fandango at home and also Movies Anywhere, because although they are like no names, they're not one of the big studios, right? They do pride themselves in some of the best versions, the best quality of streaming, the best sound, the best picture that you can get. And that's what, and of course you get all of the extras that these movies come with without having to pop in the Blu-ray, right? All of this behind the scenes, all of like this, the photos, or even sometimes the soundtracks are in there for Movies Anywhere and Fandango at home. And so I'm a fan of those just because they're higher quality streaming. So I looked for it to actually buy, and they were not there on either place, but it is on AMC and Shudder. I don't know if there's a physical copy of this.
It could be, and one of the things that I think Shudder is doing now, which maybe they should have been doing all along, is some of their films that they buy, they will put out to theaters. Things like Clown in the Cornfield, right, was a good example of that.
Well, that's, much more. First of all, it's American and English language.
Well, yeah, they're going to make
it's also much more of like a popcorn film, than this.
But I feel like if they felt like they had something really special, they would do it, And I think they're more likely to do that now than they were even just a couple years ago.
This movie feels a little more like, I don't know, A24.
It does.
I feel like A24 would get behind a theatrical release for this more than like Shudder would. Shudder wants it on their platform.
I feel like Neon certainly would get behind a theatrical release of this movie.
Yeah. And at least Shudder's willing to go to all the film festivals and be like, here this is, and it creates buzz, and then they want people to come to their platform to watch it. And that's in that they succeed. But
and that's what they did, like this movie premiered at Fantastic Fest, and like that's a festival I'd like to go to at some point. So.
I just don't know, like as a director, I would want a studio to buy my film, or a production company to buy my film to distribute it, not to just hold it close to the vest. At the end of the day, I would be fine with that, but like I would prefer like an A24 or someone to like kind of swear on a stack of Bibles, so to speak, that I would get like 300 theaters or something. I don't know,
anything really, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think they start to look at like what's bigger, 300 theaters or every home in America. And I'm like, yeah, but you don't reach every home in America. So, man.
Yeah. And maybe they're like, hey, we made this for 100,000. You can have it for $500,000, and we'll pay back our investors and make a little bit of money. And then we'll get residuals from AMC,
If you haven't seen this film, though.
At least release it to AMC theaters.
Why aren't y'all anonymous? I didn't say that right. Finally, and perhaps not for this movie, most importantly, who's the hottest guy in MadS?
I guess it would have to be Milton Ritchie as Romain.
Romain, yes. I think the only other man that we see for enough period of time is some goofy ass guy standing in the back of that truck before they drive to the party.
Yeah, and there's the guy that he beats up, and there's his drug dealer at the beginning.
Yeah. But Milton Ritchie, Romain, I think is actually very attractive. He looks very French.
They all do, really.
Yeah, because they are. Do you have any fun facts for me?
I do, but I'm a little tired.
Oh, you're going to have to read.
So, Lori Pavey actually bit her co-star.
What?
Yeah, during the final take, Pavey, playing Anna, got so deep into her performance that she bit Lucille Guillaume, playing Julia, for real. So when Moreau congratulated her afterwards, she told him that she had completely blacked out and couldn't remember anything she'd actually done. And she'd been so inside the role for 90 straight minutes that she essentially lost herself in it. Again, this was her feature debut, by the way.
That is fucking incredible. Although, did she apologize?
No!
For biting her.
It's art.
Method.
And then they all got tattoos of a bite mark. I don't know. The DP, as we have discussed, was strapped to a car like Mad Max stunt. Cinematographer Philip Lozano was the sole camera operator for the entire shoot, as we discussed. And so for the scene where Ramon drives away from the dealer's house at the very beginning, Lozano was standing on top of a small chase car following the Mustang, strapped down by grips. So Moreau compared the setup to something out of Mad Max Fury Road. You can remember the guitarist. He was basically strapped to the front of a vehicle following them. And they had to do that, like wrapping stuff around him while he's holding the camera, and he has to trust that they've got him figured out.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And so also they would like throw him a quick pillow on his stomach to stabilize the camera during handheld sequences, and he had to do all of this bullshit. So it's just crazy. I would love to see the GoPro just of like watching the cameraman have to do all this bullshit.
That is the level of commitment to art that I just appreciate.
Let's hire this guy. So the first 2 days of shooting were disasters. We already talked about that. But day 1 had cable and technical failures. And day 2, they lost the focus puller because the camera got too far from the wireless follow focus system, blah, blah, blah. But day 3 saw one of the worst storm systems that Eastern France had experienced in 2 years. The first set location actually flooded. And then about 10 minutes before they needed to start rolling, the sky cleared from black to blue. So Moreau basically described it as divine intervention.
Okay. Well, that's good.
Lastly, only 4 weeks of total prep. So we talked about this a little bit too, but Moreau deliberately cast very young and experienced actors, partly because they didn't want to overthink the difficulty of what they were doing. Right?
Exactly.
And then the experienced crew members were the skeptical ones. Total preparation was about 1 week rehearsing in a room, 1 week on location, and then 1 week with technical crew, and then 1 week of actual shooting.
Because that's exactly right. I mean, if you want your actors to be able to do it, you want them to not know what they're doing. Like, just go do it.
And only 1 week, incidentally, because the first 3 days were disasters, right? Mm-hmm. And then something on the 4th happened to ruin a take, one actor says a line wrong or something, you know what I mean? And then like the 5th day, like I'm surprised it didn't take them longer than 5. So much pressure.
Yeah.
For a 90-minute movie or whatever.
Can you imagine though, if you want to do it in one take and you've got 5 planned.
You're at the very end and some guy just like blows it.
I mean, but like you as a creator, wouldn't you want to like say, let's just one more or whatever, Sometimes you have to say like, this was it. This was the best.
Well, they shot it all on that like 8K red camera, right? And so they would watch the whole thing because they don't have to sit down and edit the thing.
Exactly.
They can literally just like watch it. Of course, they'll color grade it and do things later, but they can literally watch the movie like that night in a theater all together and decide this is it. This is the one.
Yeah. All these things are leading up to the film that we're eventually going to make together. And all I can say is that those facts were fun. And if we make a movie and someone doesn't actually bite their co-star, I will feel cheated. Well, I think that wraps up our conversation on MadS. As always, we want to know what you think about this movie, especially if you've seen it and watched it. Please tell us what you think about it in our conversation. Find us on social media at The Film Flamers on Facebook, on Instagram, on Blue Sky, on Threads.
You can email us at tiredqueens@filmflamers.com or call our hotline at 972-666-7733 and let us know what your
true self, your voice, your so will.
That's what you thought of this film or any other.
Maybe snort some cocaine. And give us a call. We have a little bit more zombie fun coming out for you on the main feed this month. We are going to be covering Wild Zero, which we have been instructed to watch these many years by patron Scrotus, right?
Yes, and several others, I think. You know, it's well known in the community for being a zombie film with explosions and being fun and about like a band or something.
That's right.
Don't know. Maybe that's why it's called Wild Zero, because it's a band name.
We have never seen this, so what a fun ride it's going to be.
Hopefully.
Also, over on Patreon, we have a bonus episode that is released celebrating the Oscar nomination of Amy Madigan, where we talk about another one of her horror films, The Dark Half. So head over to patreon.com/thefilmflamers, join the family, get that bonus episode, and tell us all about that too.
That's right. Become a patron. Don't make her mad again.
That joke never gets old. Nope. Well, Chris.
Well, Rob.
I think it's about time for me to head off and let someone experience 90 minutes of my life.
Oh,
Zombie style.
I'm going to pop on the back of a moped and wipe my bodily fluid all over the driver.
We didn't do them at the same time. And have some sweet dreams. She wiped her blood on her face far more times than it would have taken me to kick her off.
Like one fucking pockets full of fake blood bottles and shit did they have? Like packets attached like to their back or something. You know
right,
what I mean?
on their body.
My goodness.
I mean, in real life, though, if someone smeared blood on me while I was driving, I'd be like, get out right now.
I'm gonna eat your face, Julia!
An achievement. This film is an achievement.
If zombies could talk.